everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel. So this video is all about books, and my goal this year is to read as many books as I possibly can. In fact, my goal is really to read more books than I ever have done in a year, which isn't very many. I love books. I read a lot of fiction when I was a teenager, and then when I got into the workplace and got on with my life in a way, I kind of pushed books to the side a bit. And whereas I did read, and I do read occasionally, I never put so much effort into reading before. And you know, I spend a lot of time on the internet. In fact, a lot of my days off work are spent on the internet, watching YouTube videos, looking at articles, googling things that are of interest to me. And you know, very little time is actually spent reading actual books written by people. And I just think the knowledge that you can get from books is limitless. There's so much to learn, and I just want to learn as much as I can. I've been seeking for the past 10 years, trying to figure out where my interests lie, and I've come to a place where I have much better defined interests. And I don't know if that's because, you know, I take ADHD medication now, and so it's easier for me to figure out what I'm interested in, and I'm able to be interested in them for a long period of time rather than just being very sporadic with my interests. I'm not sure. But I am very, very interested in several things that you'll see through the books that I'm about to share, which are all of a similar theme anyway. You know, I really enjoy collecting nature books and looking through nature books, but I don't sit down and read them cover to cover mostly. However, I do really enjoy reading books about the mind, especially. And yeah, I just really want to read more, taking more knowledge this year. I'm also going to be reading more books, audiobooks, and the way I'm doing this is not by buying audiobooks, it's by going on YouTube and typing in audiobooks. And YouTube have several free ones, especially by philosophers. I read one by Seneca. It was called like On the Shortness of Life, and it was really, really interesting to me. So I'm going to be reading a lot more philosophy things that are free on YouTube. But in terms of psychology, more psychology-based books, I'll be reading more physical books. I got a bookshelf for my 30th birthday. You know, I've just been putting a lot of intention into wanting to read more books, which I think kind of emphasises that and makes you do it more, or it makes it more interesting. Not that it's not interesting anyway, but the goal, like getting the actual goal, is more interesting. So I have a whole pile of books I want to share with you, and yeah, I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are on these books, if you've read them, if there are some things that is an interest of yours. Maybe you want to delve into them further as well. Maybe you want to set yourself a reading challenge. I know if you have ADHD, it can be super, super hard to read. And I recently told a friend of mine that they could potentially have something called visual stress, which is basically when you're reading, you know, your eyes might blur, or you see letters move around and things like that. So, and I kind of feel that that's something maybe a lot of people with ADHD have as well, not just that they lack the focus sometimes to fully read a whole book. I found that I can't really read in small bursts. I have to sit down for periods of time, and I find the best way to do this is by taking a bath and reading a book. And if I've got nothing else to do in the bath, then reading a book is something I can just focus on. And before going to bed as well is a really good time for me. I'm struggling to read in the morning, although I would like to. I just feel like I need to be getting on with other stuff, and it's difficult having a time limit. I don't know. It's just something that I want to get better at. But yeah, the pursuit of knowledge is something that I have a keen desire for, and the internet is a very big distraction. So are mobile phones, because you know, you can literally go on the internet wherever you want to, except while driving. But anyway, so I am just getting into the books I bought, the books that I've requested from family members this year, and some that I bought myself. I bought myself a treat for getting a new job, and for my birthday, turning 30 this year. So the first book I'm sharing is one that I've already shared on my channel. It is Carl Jung's book, autobiography, Memories, Dreams, Reflections. He is a Swiss psychiatrist. He has a fascinating mind. Like, his work has really shaped psychology in so many ways. If you are interested in Myers-Briggs or personality theories, if you're interested in archetypes, if you're interested in the unconscious mind, things like that, Carl Jung had a lot to say about these things, and he has many different books on these. But his autobiography made me kind of fall in love with his work even more. I haven't completely finished reading it yet. I'm almost there, but it is just fascinating. Once you find a book that you really, really like, really, really enjoy and want to learn more about, it's harder to put it down. And with Jung, I connect to him on different ways, such as he's an introvert. He likes exploring his own mind a lot, which I do a lot of. And when he talks about his childhood, he talks about it in a very, a way that I connect with as well, and that he liked to have his own little things that were just for him. And they kind of kept him going in a way, especially when he was dealing with like neuroses and things. So, I can connect to that myself. I find that perhaps his mind works in a similar way to mine. Obviously, it's a lot to live up to. I'm not saying that I'm a genius or anything, but Jung is a fascinating person. I really, really recommend his work to anybody, really, especially if you have an interest in figuring out people and your own mind. And this is one book that I asked for. It's called Jung on Technology and Modern Life. It says, "The Earth has a soul." Obviously, you can see it's a second-hand book, but I bought this because of the quotes I read about this book, or I asked for it based on that. Join Jung as he rediscovers the original unity of nature and the spirits inside matter come to life once again. These selections, not just from his published writings, but also from speeches, obscure seminars, interviews and letters, show a less familiar side of the famous Swiss psychiatrist, whose deep concern over the loss of our emotional and mythic relationship with nature is expressed in moving poetic terms. While never losing sight of the rational, cultured mind, Jung speaks for the natural mind, source of the evolutionary experience and accumulated wisdom of our species. Through his own example, Jung shows how healing our own living connection with nature contributes to the world. And I think just reading the quotes of this, I know that I'm going to absolutely love what he has to say about nature, because, as you probably know, nature was the thing that really helped me through a lot of my darker times in my life, especially when my ADHD was taking over everything and I just felt so behind and I felt so lost and I was just struggling a lot, basically. And getting out into nature really healed me on many levels, and so yeah, I know I'm gonna love that book. So a treat that I bought myself, feels like a Bible. I'm not a Christian or anything, even though I was baptized, but it feels a very special book. It's called The Red Book, and yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail about all the books because it's going to be a very long video, but just look how beautiful this book is to begin with. Another one of Jung's books that is highly, highly recommended. It's got great reviews about it, so I'm really just flicking through it and reading some of the parts of it. I just can't wait to get stuck into this one, and this is going to be the book I read after I've finished the autobiography, which probably will be this week. And then a book that has a contributor of Jung as well. A book that I'm also really, really interested to get into is Meeting the Shadow. I'm super, super psyched to read this book. It's basically about the shadow side of ourselves, and also has a really, really it's highly recommended on a lot of book sites. I guess this book is something very different. I have a small interest in the occult, and it's also something Jung talks about as well, and I have one of his books on order on the occult, so I'm looking forward to getting that as well. But Mitch Horowitz, I can barely say it. I've seen some of his lectures online. and I'm really, really interested in what he has to say. Some of what he says, I think, it doesn't fully make sense to me, but it makes it more intriguing in a way. And he does a lot of things about positive thinking, and manifestation and that kind of thing. And that topic is an interest of mine as well. And yeah, so I'm interested in getting into one of his books. It's a very, very thin book, so it won't take me very long to read. It says, join Mitch to discover how to effectively program your mind, the links between performance and self-image, why writing down symbols, aims and wishes brings you special power, how to develop charisma, the correspondences between current ESP research and Bristol's ideas, which I don't know what that means. Symbols are something that's of interest to me. It's also something Carl Jung talks about as well. It's not about the symbols. You probably know what symbolism is, but it's basically about adding meaning to things, which is really, really interested. And then another book of the mind, in a way, is something that I take a personal interest in, which is a book on tarot. So tarot actually has a lot of bases in things like archetypes, which again is another one of Carl Jung's fields. I started reading tarot for myself. I would never even think about reading it for other people. I've never really thought about it really. It's just a personal interest. And I find it gives you a deeper insight into your own mind as well. And I think that's the key to it. Like, people say it's like fortune telling and all that sort of thing, and perhaps that's how some people like to use it. But I thought it was about time that I bought a book on it. And this book is beautiful. Let me just show you the inside. It's really pretty. Another book that I bought, I'm very, which I've started actually, I'm still on the A's. Ideas That Matter by A.C. Grayling. This one was recommended to me, and it's a personal guide to the 21st century. And I've also learned quite a few things, which is quite cool. It's a book that you just kind of like, not just going to read cover to cover, you just pick it up every now and again and read a little bit more, learn a few more things. You can also, I guess, use it as some kind of like dictionary if you want to. If you've heard about a term, especially like a political term or just a religious term or scientific term or something like that, I'm very interested in reading this section here. Artificial intelligence. That's something that I've taken a little bit of an interest in recently, so I'm interested to read into what this guy says about that. Following on from that, I also bought another book by that guy called The God Argument, and religion is something that interests me because it really fascinates me how people can just take on this whole religion. Some people have a huge need for religion in their lives, and I don't know the reason for that exactly. It's almost like it's built into their brain and they need to have that. You know, I can't quite make up my mind on it, and I'm okay with that, and I don't think I'm ever going to make up my mind on it. You know, I've explored spirituality quite a lot in many different forms, and I do feel like I need to have some kind of meaning in life, and I feel like I get that through things like nature and just by watching a sunset and meditating and exploring my own mind and things like that. And it's took me a while to really get to this place where I am not seeking as much as I was, and I'm just more content in myself as a person, almost as if I went down more of a spiritual route, just not to broaden my spirituality, but more to discover myself more. Yeah, so I'm willing to explore different ideas about it. I did really well at school and college in science, so I just pursued it even more. And the book that I have bought is The World According to Physics by Jim Al-Khalili. I thought it would be really good to get back into physics, because physics was perhaps, I guess it was, my favourite of the sciences at school. So I thought this book might be quite interesting to read. Ooh, scale. I like physics because it's theory-based, abstract-based, you know, like a lot of psychology is really. So yeah, really, really interested to read more about physics. The last two books are fiction books that I have bought. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl, I think is how you pronounce the name. This book has a lot of great reviews. Actually says on the back, if you read but one book this year, Dr. Frankl's book should be that one. Basically it's about a guy who talks about his time in Nazi concentration camps and how he tries to survive, and it says, today this remarkable tribute to hope offers us an avenue to finding greater meaning and purpose in our own lives, which is a lot of what I spend my time thinking about. So I thought that book would be really good to read. The last book, I don't know if this will surprise you guys, is a book called A Clockwork Orange. I watched the film when I was a teenager and I absolutely loved the film. I think it's very twisted, but very interesting concept of what they do in the film. And yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it. If you've seen the film, you'll know. But I've never read the book before, and I thought I'd read the book. And the book itself is like really nice quality, like really nice quality. And you know, when you read a book that looks really nice, it kind of makes it more pleasurable even. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this book too. I don't read an awful lot of fiction. In fact, I prefer non-fiction now. It makes more sense to me too, because it's me, you know, I feel like you learn more from non-fiction. So yeah, they're the books that I'm going to be reading this year, or that I've started this year. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you think about them. And thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you again in the next video.